Hey everyone, Genome here, coming to you with my next how to fix video. In this video, I want to talk about Brock Rumlow, that's right, Crossbones, and why I think this character needs some major help. He has received some very minor reworking or boosting in the past, but it's nothing to bring him into prominence. Even when it first happened, it didn't really change anything. He had a very slight resurgence in war, but even that was kind of shelved. It just isn't necessary. And I think this character is just a kind of a muddled mess right now. He used to be meta back in the day. In fact, I used to run him on a tech AoE team in like my first year of Arena. I ran him constantly for the longest time. I've always liked the character in the comics. In fact, if you have any doubts of that, here's his first appearance. First appearance is really, this is his first full-fledged one. He was in like the last panel of this book here. And also would love to actually bring his real costume, not this MCU garbage out there. Let's get the Crossbones costume in there, because that's how I want to play him. Even a Liefeld one, I'll let that one go. It's a cool cover. But Crossbones is always one of my favorite villains in the comics, actually, because I like Captain America comics. And I don't think he's represented well in this game. They make it look like the MCU version for one, and his defining move is kind of an MCU nod, but there's a lot more to this guy than the MCU, the piddling amount of time he was in the movie. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into how I would change his character. So the first thing I would do is change around some of his tags. Villain and Global is fine, but Tech and Protector make no sense. It does in the format that they're building him here, but I would get rid of his Tech tag and make him Skill, and get rid of his Protector tag and make him a Brawler. Let's make this guy into a damage guy, because I'm going to be completely changing this guy, alright? Except for maybe his ultimate. I'll leave that alone for the MCU crowd, whatever, right? But that is kind of the flavor of him. But let's get into his abilities here. So, for Piston Punch, I'm going to change that name to Street Punch, because for those of you who actually know the character, he wasn't some special ops guy or something like he was in the movies. He was actually a street thug and a street gang member. He was brutal. He killed somebody in his teens, a Vietnam veteran, no less. And he was not a nice guy, and he is not a nice guy in the books. Let me tell you something. He's nasty. He's a terrible guy. But yeah, so I'm going to call this a Street Punch. He's a brawler type character in the books. That's what he is, and I think this basic should reflect that. I'm going to make it a 2-punch attack, keep the damage the same, like, 175%, 150%, something like that. 2 punches, left and right, and this attack is coupled with a 25% chance it's done. He hits hard. He's basically the peak strength of a human. He actually goes toe-to-toe with Cap, and Cap's got the super soldier serum, so they're about equal strength. That's how strong this guy is. So let's make his punches count, right? So 25% chance done. It just gives a little utility to his basic, which you kind of have to fall back on quite a bit. So not a huge change, but it could be a meaningful one, right? And for his special, this is going to be the biggest change on him, other than maybe the passive, right? So his special, I want to get rid of his taunt. There's no purpose for it. See, here's what's confusing about this character. It's like, he's like a hybrid. In the old days, he was your prime damage dealer, but you tended to taunt with him in his first couple turns, right, to take the pressure off everybody else. Now, it looks like back then damage wasn't as bad. But you started getting like the Captain Marvels and stuff when this started coming out, then damage started ramping up. And if you taunted with this guy, because he has no real mitigation, he was going to be dead before he could launch his only good attack, right? So I don't think it makes any sense to have a Protector on him anymore, and his special is kind of left over from that bygone era and needs to be changed. So I would change that to Arrows and Blades. That'd be the new name of it. It'd be a 2-prong attack once again. The first attack is going to be using his signature hand crossbow for 300% piercing to the target, with a follow-up knife attack that does 200% damage and applies 2 bleeds, right? So basically, the first attack will ignore all armor. The second attack is a standard melee brawler attack, but it's going to leave behind some bleeds. Once again, leave something behind with this guy. That's all. It's nothing too bad. You can leave this on a pretty short cooldown. I'll leave this on like a 2 energy cooldown or something. So, he's a brawler, he's a damage dealer. He should have his cooldowns be a little bit lower if they're not going to do any huge things, right? But speaking of huge things, we're going to get to his ultimate. I will just leave this the same, because I know the movies are way more popular than the comic books or whatever. People know it from the movies. They want to see him blow himself up. This is kind of a legacy move that everyone knows. So I guess there's no reason to get rid of it. Maybe leave a bleed or something behind, but once again, we'll just leave it alone. It's big damage. Always has been. I mean, until it started dropping off. Again, with once around the time the Brotherhood and a little bit everything after that, the damage started really ramping up, and this was no longer the killer move that it used to be, but it used to be something else. And so yeah, I guess we can just leave that in there. There's no real reason to change it. Everyone needs a good AoE big nuke, right? So, and he's a damage dealer, so we'll leave that alone. So there's been some changes, pretty big one with his special, because I don't think it makes sense to make him a protector anymore. And let's get into his passive. There's going to be a lot of changes here, because once again, his passive is set up more like a protector passive, but he was never a good protector. And just adding health to a protector does no good, because without mitigation, that extra health means nothing, especially on these older characters whose stats are so terrible, right? So they did add this bonus here with Zemo. Basically, he can ult his first turn, what made him somewhat dangerous. But once again, his damage is not what it used to be, so it's not as big a deal anymore. And then he gain more armor. Armor's fast-going the way of the dodo, right? So I'll make a lot of changes here. I can scrap out all of this except for the Zemo portion. And let's talk about this. He is a bad guy, right? But he's not like the leader. He's the brawn and the muscle of the group, right? He's very loyal to like Red Skull. He's always wanted to be the Red Skull's henchman. There's actually a backstory where Red Skull, he's taken a job to assassinate the Red Skull. The Red Skull traps him, and then they have the big fight and all that, and he decides to become the Red Skull's henchman. But he's always been shown to be very loyal to whoever his boss is. So I want to have him have some tie-in with Mercs and make him a possible addition to the Mercs team, maybe give it some new life. So I would say let's give him like the Graviton treatment. All Mercs gain 30% health. Okay. Another facet I would like to give him is pairing him with Red Skull. That's what he's known for. So I would say this would have to actually slap something on Red Skull too. That Red Skull amps up Crossbones damage. Now you can figure your percentage out here. I don't know what it'd be. Maybe he has permanent offense up while Red Skull is on the team, right? Because once again, he is the front line for the Red Skull. So there needs to be something there to help boost his damage even more, right? And finally, he needs to do extra damage against either heroes, kind of like the Punisher does against villains, or at least some extra damage against Captain America, right? I would like to make it so, not that they already can't, and Mercs are almost always on defense, but like mercenary-type characters or Hydra characters should be able to punch up massively even more on like Captain America teams. You could even include Captain America Sam on there, right? He's the Captain America mantle, so he really hates whoever has that mantle, right? So he does extra damage against them. I don't know how much more you would want to do, 40% extra damage or whatever against certain characters. It's niche, it's not that big a deal, but I think it adds a little extra flavor to him. And I know, it gets him out of this pigeonhole he's been in for so long. He was arena meta for a little while on the strength of his ultimate alone. That was all he did. You had to keep him alive for 2 turns to he blew up the other team. It was a race to see whose Crossbones went off. Those days are long gone. Crossbones is used basically nowhere now. Maybe some fringe use in war on the Hydra team or whatever, but I don't even use him there. And he's like one of my favorite characters in comics. So I want to see some more justice to this guy. So what say you? How would you change him? I definitely would try to go more toward the brawler thing. That's what he is. He's a fighter. He's a hardcore fighter, and he's a wisecracking kind of fighter too. But dangerous, deadly, and he's a killer. That's what he does. He'll kill anybody. It doesn't matter who's in his way. So let's give him some more boost and make him the true killer of opposing teams that he should be. So, yeah, let me know your changes that you will make in the comments below. And until next time, this is Genome, just really hoping we get the Crossbones alternate costume. It needs to be that one. Out.